Mamaroneck Village posts a deficit for the current financial year.
It's the season for hunting cars as Mamaroneck gets hit with auto vandals.
Sarah Newman gets approval for expansion and awaits funding.
The possibility of parking meters in Larchmont may have residents digging for change.
Plus news from the police blotter, a new LMC-TV board of directors, President, all on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Alyssha.
And I'm Sven Oehme. Our top story: Mamaroneck Village will end this financial year with a deficit. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Jenny Neumeister spoke with Mamaroneck Village manager Michael Blau about the reasons for the deficit.
Oftentimes it's situations where you overestimate your revenues, or you run into a situation, an emergency situation that was unanticipated, or just that there are no funds available to fall back on if you happen to overexpend your budget.
Mm-hmm. In this case, was it the snow budget that helped you?
Well, the
Or
snow,
didn't help you?
in the case at hand, the snow was one of the factors that brought us into the deficit, but we actually did address the snow with what they call a budget note.
Mm-hmm.
We borrowed money in the last fiscal year, and we're paying for it in this fiscal year. So actually that doesn't attribute to the dollar figure we are now looking at as our deficit. We have a $244,000 deficit, and primarily the reason we're there is that some of our revenues that we anticipated getting in last fiscal year we did not receive.
Now FEMA is going to contribute, and also the collection of back taxes.
Yes, but neither of those happen overnight. With FEMA, we're looking to collect some dollars from the blizzard of January of 1996, and we still haven't collected those dollars, but FEMA only pays a very specific amount of money, and it relates to clearing one lane of traffic in each direction on the major thoroughfares and other roads throughout, but not the small little roads.
Right. Well, for future, though, it's going to be fiscally conservative.
Absolutely. That's one way to bring a village out of a deficit situation, is to be fiscally conservative, and when you look at your revenues, you do historic projections for your revenues. When you look at your expenditures, you do historic projections for your expenditures to make sure. I mean, when you cut expenditures and you find out that you haven't budgeted enough, but you're still going to spend the money, then you've got a problem on that end too. So you look. We do 5-year projections and find out what have we spent over the last 5 years, what have we collected over the last 5 years, and then where there's adjustments to be made, you make those adjustments.
Well, good luck.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Parking meters in Larchmont Village? It could happen, but not without input from residents and shop owners. Larchmont Village trustees are considering installing meters in 5 or 6 village lots to increase revenue and bring in about 0.5% of the tax rate, or $33,000 a year. A major reason for considering the meters may be attributed to little or no development in the village, which denies them any new revenue sources. On-street parking would remain free, but the Chamber of Commerce is still opposed, with a sense that the meters will push an already small audience of shoppers to local malls. There will be many more discussions on this topic, and remember, you can attend local village board meetings and voice your opinion.
Last week, a wave of car vandalism hit Mamaroneck town and village. On Monday of last week, incidents were reported on Stanley and Monroe Avenues. Some of the car windows seemed to have been hit by shots from a BB gun. Further incidents took place on Hoyt and Palmer Avenues. Other incidents of car vandalism were also reported from Bishop Avenue, Stony Brook Avenue, and a parking lot at Larchmont Acres.
Well, Mamaroneck Village is now taking applications for parking permits. For more on this story, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Jenny Neumeister.
Parking permits go on sale in the village of Mamaroneck on February 18th. Permits can be renewed at Village Hall on Mount Pleasant Avenue from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday at the clerk's office on the 2nd floor, or by mail. Applicants must bring their registration certificates with them or mail a copy of your registration to Village Hall with your check. Permits for residents are $240 and $440 for non-residents, an increase from last year for the Metro North commuter lots. For Larchmont and Mamaroneck Community News, this is Virginia Newmeister.
A report on public safety in Mamaroneck Village was released last week. The report showed an increase in most categories. The good news, however, is that no incidents of murder or manslaughter were reported for 1996. Also, only 6 robberies occurred in 1996 compared to 20 during the previous year. But 2 rape and rape attempts were reported in 1996 compared to none in 1995. Some other figures: assault, 42 incidents in 1996 compared to 28 in 1995. Burglary, 104 incidents in 1996 compared to 85 in 1995. Larceny, 374 in 1996 compared to 370 in 1995. And car theft, 113 in 1996 compared to 73 during the previous year, 1995. And another noteworthy number covers citations that were issued for housing code violations in the village. In 1996, 339 citations were issued. During the year 1995, only 169 citations were recorded.
As of last Wednesday, February 5th, traffic was rerouted around the Larchmont Metro North Station to accommodate the continuing reconstruction of the parking plaza and I-95. All traffic will enter and exit from Chatsworth Avenue, while the entrance ramp from Myrtle Boulevard is closed. No left turns will be permitted in or out of the parking lot from Chatsworth Avenue. It is recommended that passengers be dropped off on Depot Way on the west side of the parking plaza and Railroad Way on the east side. Commuters can reach New York-bound trains via the pedestrian underpass.
It's time to take a look at the police blotter. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Guy Vitro tells us about some of the things that caught the attention of the police.
Larchmont Police stops James Glenn, a 25-year-old Rye resident, for driving while intoxicated, a felony. When Glenn was stopped on the Boston Post Road by police, they found that his driver's license had been revoked in Wisconsin and that he had a prior arrest for driving while intoxicated. Glenn was taken to police headquarters and was shown to have a blood alcohol level of 0.21%, police said. Glenn was charged with driving with a blood alcohol level of 0.10% or greater, which is a misdemeanor, driving with a revoked license, and given a ticket for driving left of the pavement markings. Glenn was released on $50 bail and is scheduled to appear in Larchmont Village Court February 11th. A car was reported stolen Sunday from the Village Square Shopping Center parking lot. Andrea Vargas of 723 Larchmont Acres reported that her 1995 Ford Escort station wagon was stolen about 4 p.m. The car is valued at $11,000. And sometime over the past month, $300 worth of coins were taken from the Ambulance Corps building at 220 North Barry Avenue, according to a police report. The coins were being stored after they had been removed from a vending machine and rolled up, were reported missing on Sunday. Another cash theft was also reported this week. A petty cash fund of $1 bills was reported stolen Friday from a classroom at Mamaroneck Avenue School. The money was taken between 2:15 p.m. Thursday and 8:25 a.m. Friday. Police did not release the amount of money that was stolen. The fund was used for classroom activities, according to the report filed. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Guy Vitro.
The Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce prepares for the upcoming PGA golf tournament, and Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Rebecca Chernicki reports.
The Mamaroneck Village Chamber of Commerce is meeting with representatives of the Westchester County Convention and Visitors Bureau and the village manager, Michael Blau, in order to determine the best ways of promoting the village and the arrival of the PGA. The Chamber of Commerce will work with the village manager to arrange a special event for guests of the golf tour. If any businesses are interested in sponsoring promotional material, including an up-and-coming event and a map of the village for the visiting players, golf association, and staff, as well as spectators, their contributions would be much appreciated. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Rebecca Chernicki.
And we have to Welcome, Rebecca, here on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, her first time reporting for us. And if you're interested in volunteering, make sure you pay special attention at the end of this program.
The Sarah R. Newman Nursing Home hopes to begin a planned expansion this fall. A 40,000 square foot wing will be added to the existing buildings at the corner of Palmer and Rockland Avenues. The new building is estimated to cost between $5 to $6 million. The addition will have space for a 200-people multi-purpose room, a gift shop, a coffee shop with a courtyard, and 30 additional beds for residents. Also included in the project is an updated rehabilitation area which will not only be used by residents of the nursing home, but also by patients who come in the morning and leave in the evening. The Sarah R. Nursing Home is about to send an application for a grant to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So far, the project has received a $1.5 million grant from the Skirball Foundation and a $1 million grant from the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation.
Westchester County has a new health commissioner who's a resident of Larchmont. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Catherine Kaywood tells us more about the new commissioner. Catherine?
Larchmont resident Dr. Harold Adele was recently sworn in as the Westchester County Commissioner of Health. According to the Gannett papers, Dr. Adele is 66 years old and will be paid $132,400 annually. Dr. Adele had been acting commissioner since September, and before that was the deputy commissioner for community health services. Before joining the Westchester County Health Department in 1990, he was a professor and associate chairman of medicine in the Department of Medicine at Albert Einstein. Even with a $20 million budget, Dr. Adele's position will offer him a challenge in today's changes in the healthcare industry. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Catherine Kaywood.
Most parts of Westchester County receive their water from the New York City water system. A New York City Water Board was set up in 1905. Relations between the Water Board and Westchester County became tense when the Water Board unilaterally imposed water rate increases on water used by communities in Westchester County starting in 1992. A proposed increase of almost 57% had communities up in arms. While the rate of the increase was reduced, Westchester County and Scarsdale took the Water Board to court. In the following years, further increases of the water rates were proposed, and another lawsuit against the Water Board was filed. A hike of the water rates proposed last year may also be challenged in court. In the first lawsuit against the 1992 increase, the state Supreme Court has now ruled that New York City's Water Board has the exclusive right to set water rates for suburban communities. County officials have not yet decided what their response to the court's decision will be.
U.S. Congresswoman Nita Lowey, who represents our area in Washington, asked that the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, play a role in the fight against noise. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Rebecca Chernicki has more on the proposal.
Congresswoman Nita Lowey is sponsoring a bill entitled the Quiet Communities Act of 1997. Money from the Environmental Protection Agency would be allocated over a period of years to establish EPA offices to address the noise issue. In a Daily Times interview, Lowey said that noise pollution is a real problem for many here in Westchester. Lowey's bill is receiving bipartisan support in Congress and from many local officials in the area. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Rebecca Chernicki.
It's time now for Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Jamie Stein. This week she talks about colds.
Yes, it's that time of year, cold season. To help prevent the next cold before it gets you, here are a few helpful hints from the book Before You Call the Doctor. To help prevent, humidify your air to keep the mucus layer lining your nose and throat intact. Limit your exposure to people with colds. Don't touch anything that cold sufferers have touched. Wash hands. Wipe anything with Lysol, which reduces the cold transmission 20%. Make an effort not to touch your nose or your eyes. When you need to blow that nose, use paper tissues, not cloth handkerchiefs. Okay, now you already got that cold. How do you combat it? Okay, number one, hot liquids, grandmotherly advice, Jewish penicillin. chicken soup, it works. Number 2, take at least 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. Try some zinc lozenges. And my favorite, echinacea. Echinacea is a medicinal herb native to the Great Plains that stimulates the immune system to fight viral infections, which are similar to the body's own antiviral chemicals. Throw some in your OJ, no pun intended. You can get echinacea at the health food store. And last but not least, my favorite also, keep a positive mental attitude. These are all helpful hints to nip your cold. Get well soon. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Jamie Stein.
LMC-TV held its annual meeting last week. At the meeting, LMC-TV elections for the board were held. 2 board members were up for re-election and confirmed, Mike Charles and Sven Oehme. As a new member of the board, Ginny Neumeister was elected. Lynn Crowley, who had been president of LMC-TV's board of directors for 2 years, had announced in January that she was going to leave the board at the beginning of February. While Lynn will not be on the board anymore, she will be around as the new access coordinator of LMC-TV, a paid position. Mira Heemstra left the LMC-TV board after serving for the maximum 4 terms. The LMC-TV board of directors elected Sven Oehme as the new president and Ginny Neumeister as secretary. Congratulations.
And now it's time to welcome a new resident to our community, Richard Drew Razor III. He's a new Larchmont resident. He was born on January 29th. At the time of his birth, he weighed in at 7 pounds 13 ounces. And if you have some video of your new baby, drop by at the studio and we'll use it on the news show. We'll welcome the new members of our community on this program.
Yeah.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. You can watch the news show Monday through Friday at about 7 in the evening.
Or you can request it on LMC's Request TV. Just call the Palmer Avenue studio at 698-6808 and request that the news show be put on the air on one of LMC-TV's channels, 14, 15, or 16. It may just be a couple of minutes until the show comes on, especially for you.
All of us who work on this program are volunteers. No one on this show is employed by LMC-TV. As there's a lot of work involved in doing the news show, we always have room for new people who'd like to join us. It's a fun way to get involved in community affairs, and in addition, you can learn a lot about television news.
Every Thursday night, we meet at about 7 p.m. and work on this news program, taping the various segments that make up the final show that you see later. In case you'd like to join us, stop by on a Thursday night.
You'll find us in LMC's Palmer Avenue studio, which is in the Mamaroneck High School building, right up the stairs from Walter's hot dog stand on Palmer Avenue. Also, if you have a story or some video which you think we might like to use on this program, come by on a Thursday night and we'll most likely use your story.
Or if you have any comments, suggestions, or some criticism, but can't come on a Thursday night, you can also send us a letter. The address is Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, care of LMC-TV, 1 Library Lane, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543. Thanks for sharing your time with us. I'm Alyssha Myro.
And I'm Sven Oehme. And it's just about another 5 weeks until spring.
Well, I don't know, the groundhog said it was going to be an early spring.
Right. But before we get to spring,
we have Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day coming up. So
happy Valentine's Day. You and everybody.
And everybody.
Kidnapping foiled in Larchmont.
Mamaroneck town attorney under fire from the GOP.
Uncle Sam comes through with financial aid after last winter's blizzard.
Mamaroneck's Nichols Boatyard finally gets a zoning variance.
Crime reported down in Larchmont and Mamaroneck town. Plus, we'll take a look at the police blotter.
Bonnie Breyer appeals the court ruling.
And a former trustee of Larchmont Village is dead.
Those stories and more on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
Hello and welcome to the mid-February 1997 edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Roger Norham.
And I'm Jenny Newmeister. Our top story?
A Connecticut man arrested in Larchmont last week is accused of kidnapping a woman he previously had assaulted and kidnapped. A 27-year-old Tony Niemeyer of Stratford, Connecticut, is being held in Westchester County Jail and was scheduled to be arraigned in Larchmont Village Court this week. A couple Saturdays ago, Larchmont police stopped Niemeyer in his car near Lorenzen Street, not far from Tony's nursery. He had a busted headlight. While the car was stopped, his passengers claimed they were being held against their will. However, Niemeyer is apparently under a court order to stay away from one of the women that was in his car. Niemeyer's attorney says the whole case is being blown out of proportion, that the woman in the car was a willing passenger along with her sister. Niemeyer now faces charges in Connecticut as well, violating a protection order and tampering with a witness. He's on trial in Connecticut on kidnapping and assault charges involving the same woman who was in his car when he was arrested by Larchmont police. We should be hearing more about this case in the weeks ahead. Jenny?
Some of the sewer plants along the Sound shore may have to be upgraded soon as part of the continuing effort to clean up Long Island Sound. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme has the details.
Under the proposed plan, Westchester County would have to modernize the county-operated 4 sewage treatment plants on Long Island Sound in Rye, New Rochelle, Portchester, and Mamaroneck. The Long Island Sound Study Committee has decided on a plan that will reduce nitrogen discharges by more than 50% over the next 15 years. Federal and state environmental officials from Connecticut and New York are members of the Long Island Sound Study Committee. The environmental officials are concerned about nitrogen discharges into the Sound. A high nitrogen content in the water leads to a low level of dissolved oxygen. This level of oxygen is too low for wildlife, according to environmental experts. While there are many sources for nitrogen, 75% of the so-called point source nitrogen discharges come from sewage treatment plants. The committee plans to reach out to the communities to raise the awareness of the danger of nitrogen discharges.
The village of Larchmont is forming a committee to take a look at renovations. To find out more, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Lori Valvano.
Federal requirements have forced the village of Larchmont to make its municipal buildings accessible to the disabled. Larchmont appointed a committee to devise a plan to make its 70-year-old village hall accessible to everyone in the community. Larchmont's Board of Trustees appointed the committee, which consists of 3 architects, a member of the Board of Architectural Review, and a commercial real estate professional. The committee will meet while the village awaits a decision on a $270,000 federal grant. Larchmont plans on matching the grant. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Lori Valvano.
After years of negotiation and public hearings, the Mamaroneck Village's board unanimously approved the rezoning of Nichols Boatyard along Rushmore Avenue in the Orienta section of Mamaroneck. Attorney Jim Stout told Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in a telephone interview that there were times when Nichols was going to drop out of the process and wanted to pursue their claim to develop the property for residential use. But he said both the village board and the Orienta Point Association worked very hard and wanted to preserve the unique character of the village and the village's water-dependent uses. They hung in there until they came up with the right solution. Now that the zoning is in place, which applies to facilities of 5 acres or more, Nichols can begin to develop a plan that will improve their boatyard.
Mamaroneck Town's top Republican wants the town attorney to resign. Charlene Indelcato, who used to be the city manager of New Rochelle, appeared before the zoning board in the city as a private lawyer representing a developer. Not just that, Ms. Indelcato had appointed 6 of the 7 zoning board members when she was the New Rochelle city manager. It's a violation of city ethics code, but Indelcato says she had not read the ethics law and made a mistake and said she was sorry. She apologized. Not good enough for Mark Mannix, the GOP chairman for the town of Mamaroneck. He says ignorance of the code is no excuse, and Mannix says, although she allegedly sought the advice of the New Rochelle Acting Corporation Council, who was hired while she managed the city. Mark Mannix says it strikes at the very core of whether she is qualified to continue as town attorney in Mamaroneck. But it doesn't look like the town council is going to take any action against her. Town Supervisor Elaine Price is quoted in the Daily Times saying the town knows she made a mistake and the incidents make a bad appearance. But Price also said they don't want Indelcato appearing before any boards in New Rochelle. Not only that, it appears that New Rochelle's ethics code is on the books, but there is no procedure listed regarding any action to be taken once the ethics code is violated. Charlene Indelcato is paid $45,000 a year on a retainer to be the attorney for the town of Mamaroneck.
Bonnie Breyer continues its court fight against the town. With details, here is Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme.
For years, Bonnie Breyer Syndicate, owner of Bonnie Breyer Country Club, and the town of Mamaroneck have been at odds over the future use of the golf club. The syndicate has plans to build homes along the 18 holes of the golf club. 2.5 years ago, Mamaroneck Town decided to rezone the area of Bonnie Breyer and Winged Foot golf clubs to only permit golf courses, swimming pools, and similar uses for leisure in the area. Bonnie Breyer sued the town because of the rezoning changes. Last July, Mamaroneck Town's decision was upheld by the court on constitutional grounds. Bonnie Breyer filed an appeal in the Appellate Division of State Supreme Court in January. Bonnie Breyer argues that the town's rezoning decision was unconstitutional. Mamaroneck Town now has until March 18th to send its response to the court.
By the way, congratulations to Sven for being elected president of the LMC-TV Board of Directors. If you have some ideas about LMC-TV and its public access channels, this channel 14 and also 15 and 16, send them along to Sven Oehme, care of LMC-TV.
It's time to take a look at this area's police blotter. To do so, let's go to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Guy Vitro.
In the town of Mamaroneck last week, a 1993 Acura was stolen from a driveway on Palmer Avenue sometime between 5 p.m. Sunday and 6:30 a.m. on Monday. The owner of the vehicle said that the car was valued at $13,000. And Stop & Shop Supermarket, formerly Edwards on the Boston Post Road, reported to police on Saturday that a man had tried to make a food purchase with a counterfeit $100 bill. When the cashier received the bill, she told him that she didn't have enough in the drawer to change the bill and would have to go to the store's office. While she was away from the register, the man had fled. In Mamaroneck Village this week, a 1981 Honda Prelude that had been left at the Cass Car Foreign Auto Repair at 325 Center Avenue was found ablaze at about 9:40 p.m. Monday. The fire was put out with a fire extinguisher, but firefighters were called to the scene and doused the car with water to make sure the fire was out and no sparks would reignite. An automated teller machine at Citibank at 711 Boston Post Road was found to have been tampered with on Sunday night. The exterior casing had been removed and the wires to the computer had been severed. After an investigation by Citibank employees, they had determined that no money was stolen. A clue from the bank's video may reveal the robber's identity. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Guy Vitro.
Police in Larchmont and Mamaroneck Town say crime is at its lowest level in quite some time, and for Larchmont, in at least 30 years. Last year in both Larchmont and Mamaroneck, no cases of murder, manslaughter, or rape were reported. Also, 24 burglaries last year in Larchmont. and 28 in the town. That compares to many times those numbers 15 years ago. There were 46 car thefts in the town and 24 in Larchmont last year. The train station parking lots are particularly vulnerable. As for the lower overall crime rate, police credit not only better home security systems, but also the lower crime rate phenomena being reported nationwide. Jenny?
It seems as though the blizzard of January '96 may be a faded memory to some of us, but not to village officials in Mamaroneck, as well as other communities in Westchester. The village has now received a little over $50,000 as its share of the $1.5 million aid package distributed by FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency set up by the federal government to assist communities that experience the effects of disastrous storms and other catastrophes. It's reported that village manager Michael Blau will earmark this money to reduce the village's deficit, which was largely caused by the cost of snow removal. That will bring the amount of the deficit now down to under $200,000. Roger?
Still a hefty sum, though.
Well, maybe they'll collect some back taxes, keep it coming down.
Okay. The banks of the Sheldrake River will look somewhat different this summer. Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme tells us what's going to happen.
In late March or early April, the banks of the Sheldrake River in Mamaroneck will look different. Mamaroneck town has a plan to stabilize the banks of the river. Long rolls made of coconut husk fiber will be added to the embankment. Small plants will be planted on top of the coconut husk. Once the roots of the plants have grown a bit, they will aid the process of stopping the riverbank erosion by holding the soil and constraining the runoff. The project will be carried out by Creative Habitat Corporation of White Plains. According to the company, a project on a river in Allentown in Pennsylvania successfully restored the riverbanks. Mamaroneck town has received a $30,000 grant from New York State that the town will match. The town also would like to see school children get involved in this project.
SAT perfection. To explain, here's Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Catherine Kaywood.
In the 70s, when our producer Jeff Montanaro was a student at Mamaroneck High School, a fellow student receiving a perfect SAT score was an event to remember. In the late 70s, when LMC-TV news reporter Guy Vitro attended Ryeneck High School, there were at least 3 fellow students who received perfect scores. In recent years, several Ryeneck students have received perfect scores on the math section, and students at Mamaroneck High School have received perfect scores on either the math or the verbal, but no one at either school has received a perfect score of 1600. At least 2 Westchester students scored a perfect 1600 on the exams in 1996. These students were from Harrison High School and Irvington High School. A perfect SAT score is no longer as special as it used to be. In 1995, there were only 32 perfect scores in the whole country, whereas in 1996, there were 545. One reason for this increase is a new scoring system that allows students to miss as many as 5 questions and still receive a perfect score. At a future date, we will give you more details on the history of the perfect SAT scores in our LMC viewing area. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, this is Catherine Kaywood.
The news shocked many Larchmont residents. The word from Pennsylvania that a popular Larchmont village trustee during the 1980s died. More from Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Lori Valvano.
Sidney Astle, a former Larchmont Village trustee, died Saturday, February 8th of multiple sclerosis at North Penn Hospital in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. He was 63. Sidney Astle lived in Larchmont for 20 years. He served as a Larchmont trustee from 1982 to 1988. In 1988, he ran as Republican candidate for mayor, but lost. His opponent in the race, then Mayor Miriam Kernan, said, Sidney Astle was a very popular figure in Larchmont and had many admirers. In addition to political activism in the community, Sidney Astle was the founder of the Larchmont Junior Soccer League and a member of the Larchmont Yacht Club. Sidney Astle is survived by his wife of 26 years, Joan Astle, his sons Paul of Mamaroneck and Matthew of Germantown, Maryland. Contributions in his memory can be made to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Lori Valvano.
Rye City's Mayor, Ted Dunn, has announced that he will run for county executive. Dunn plans to draw on his experience as a successful businessman and Rye City Mayor to manage the billion-dollar county government. Democrat Leonard Spano, who was formerly county clerk for Westchester County, has also announced his candidacy for the top county post. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from these two.
Well, and I was a little surprised, actually, when Paul Noto dropped out. He had expressed quite a bit of interest in running for the top county seat, but a couple weeks ago he dropped out.
Yeah, he said there was no time to really mount a fundraising campaign.
Oh, it takes a lot of money these days, doesn't it? And that's it for this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News for the third week of February 1997. In case you missed any portion of this news program, you can see it again.
This program is on Channel 14, LMC-TV, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Also, you can call LMC-TV and ask to see this week's news show. The number to call is 698-6808 after 4 p.m.
The crew at LMC-TV will do their best to put the Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News program on at a time that's convenient for you to watch. Remember, the number to call after 4 p.m. is 698-6808. Ask to see the news show.
Those of us who produce this news program are all volunteers, and we can always use some help. It's a fun community activity.
If you think you might want to join us, drop by when we record the program. That's about every Thursday night. We do the show at the LMC-TV studio, located in Mamaroneck High School on the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs from Walter's Hot Dog Stand. We get things going around 7 o'clock.
Please send your comments, suggestions, and news items to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, care of LMC-TV, 1 Library Lane, Mamaroneck, 10543.
Thanks for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Roger Norham.
And I'm Ginny Newmeister. We'll see you next time.
And we've only got about, 5 more weeks to go before the first official day of spring.
A month till St. Patrick's Day. Almost.
That's right. And the day before that is Election Day.
That's right.
Accused kidnapper is fighting extradition to Connecticut.
Saxon Woods Pool might not open this summer. We'll have a report.
The Emlyn Theater gets a grant to help underprivileged children.
Parents in the Mamaroneck School District are concerned over their children's education. We'll tell you why.
And things are really heating up at the Larchmont Firehouse.
Those stories, a local election update, and more on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
welcome to the last week of February's edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Roger Norham.
And I'm Alyssha Myro. Our top story. Some Mamaroneck Avenue elementary school parents are shouting no fair after the recent scores in reading dropped in the school's 95 to 96 test results. Parents are paying high school taxes, but some feel they're not getting their money's worth. A drop from 83% to 77% in reading competency of third graders, while Murray, Central, and Chatsworth elementary schools were in the high 90s, has some residents outraged. District administrators did meet with parents last week to put their fears to rest and explain some of their educational programs. They also noted that Mamaroneck Avenue offers children a lot of diversity and has more English as a second language students than any other school in the district. Mamaroneck Schools Superintendent Sherry King is quoted in the Daily Times as saying that more students are reading than ever before, and that state tests aren't necessarily a fair assessment of Mamaroneck Avenue Elementary School. With parents supporting the teachers and principal, there should only be one way to grow, up.
Last week we reported that a plan to clean up Long Island Sound was endorsed by the Long Island Sound Study Committee. Since then, more detailed information has become available on the content of pollution. Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme has more on the story.
Last week we reported that under a plan proposed by the Long Island Sound Study Committee, Westchester County will have to modernize its 4 sewage treatment plants on Long Island Sound in Rye, New Rochelle, Portchester, and Mamaroneck. The goal of the plan is to reduce nitrogen discharges into the Sound by more than 50% over the next 15 years. As gardeners know, nitrogen is a nutrient that helps plants grow. When discharged into the water, nitrogen also makes marine plants develop. And as they grow, they absorb oxygen, and when the oxygen levels in the water are too low, fish and shellfish die. A $16 million study by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency has determined that every year 93,600 tons of nitrogen enter Long Island Sound. Almost 40% of the nitrogen comes from natural sources, air, but also animal and plant wastes. Another close to 30% are so-called point source discharges from 45 sewage treatment plants along the coast of Long Island Sound. Of the remaining 20,000 tons, 1/2 is made up by nitrogen discharged into New York City's East River, which then drifts into the Sound. The rest of the nitrogen in the water comes from urban and agricultural runoff and from airborne pollutants like vehicle exhaust.
Some big bucks being spent to find the source of pollution in the Mamaroneck River. Details from Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Catherine Kaywood.
Westchester County will use a $370,000 grant to study the water quality in southern Westchester watersheds, specifically that of the Mamaroneck River and Blind Brook. Although the studies are probably a good idea, the problem may be in finding the money to clean up the Sound. Mamaroneck Town Supervisor Elaine Price told the Gannett papers that, quote, "We need money for all the things that are already on the table," unquote. It has already been more than 10 years since scientists first made us aware of the amount of pollution in the Sound. The Federation Conservationists of Westchester County complained to County Executive Andrew O'Rourke that now it is time to start spending money on the cleanup. The Westchester Department of Environmental Facilities is dragging its feet. Robert Funicello states that the county should not delay this or they might miss out on state funding again, just like they did in the early 1980s when they delayed upgrading the Mamaroneck sewage plant. Have you ever not wanted to do something, and instead of saying you didn't want to do it, you just kept putting it off? Well, the Federated Conservationists of Westchester County is worried that the county's delay is just a means of not fixing the sewage plants at all. In the meanwhile, we'll keep you posted on the progress. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, this is Catherine Kaywood.
A Mamaroneck resident and one-time Officer of the Month in New Rochelle goes on trial in April on charges stemming from a burglary assault incident nearly a year ago in Mamaroneck Village. More on the story from Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Kathleen Hurley.
Last April, we told you about the arrest of a former New Rochelle police officer, Matthew McCarrick. Well, McCarrick is expected to go to trial in early April. The incident occurred on April 3, 1995, when 3 men broke into a Mamaroneck Village apartment, beat 2 men and a woman, and stole marijuana and $500 in cash. 2 of the men have already pleaded guilty. McCarrick, who is the 3rd accused, is free on $10,000 bail. He faces charges of first-degree burglary, second-degree robbery, and second-degree assault, which has a maximum penalty of 25 years in state prison. We will let you know the outcome of this trial. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Kathleen Hurley.
Larchmont Village Board of Trustees is planning to hire a paid fire commissioner, but the fire department's 13 paid fighters have something to say about it. The firefighters who commissioned a review of their department by a New York City fire chief last year are arguing for a paid fire chief who would be in charge of all functions, instead of a non-union management commissioner. Firefighters are concerned that a commissioner would only be another level of bureaucracy and be in charge of just the paid firefighters, while the volunteers, which make up a large portion of the force, would still answer to the volunteer chief. The board says that a commissioner, if hired, would in fact be in charge of the firefighters, both paid and volunteer, and would report directly to the board. The volunteer chief would still maintain charge at all fire scenes. There has been some tension between paid and volunteer firefighters and firefighters and the Board of Trustees, but the hope is that it will all extinguish.
A lot of smoke there, huh? 27-year-old Tony Niemeyer of Derby, Connecticut, who was arrested in Larchmont earlier this month on kidnapping charges, doesn't want to go back to Connecticut. Little wonder why. He's on trial there for beating his former girlfriend. He refused to waive his right to extradition last week in Westchester County Court and has another hearing on the case March 10th. He's scheduled in Larchmont Court March 25th. Niemeyer's attorney says the kidnapping case has not nearly been established, and another attorney of his says the women he was with when he was arrested were with him willingly. Connecticut may resort to other methods to get him back for his trial, possibly using a governor's warrant. If he doesn't return to Connecticut soon, his case could wind up a mistrial because of scheduling difficulties with the impaneled jury. Alyssha?
Local politician may throw his hat into the race for Westchester County Executive. Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme has more on a bid by George Latimer.
Westchester Democrats have formed an explanatory committee to assess the potential campaign for Westchester County legislator George Latimer, a Democrat, to run for county executive. The incumbent, Andrew O'Rourke, announced earlier this year that he will not seek re-election. Latimer's working group, Citizens for George Latimer, is headed by Mamaroneck Town Supervisor Elaine Price. Includes prominent Democrats from communities across Westchester County. The purpose of the committee will be to reach out to key people in Westchester, in business, in labor, in the media, and also to other groups, to determine the potential support for Latimer within the party and the community at large. Latimer was elected to the Rice City Council in 1987 and as county legislator in 1991, 1993, and also in 1995. He represents, among other communities, Larchmont and Mamaroneck on the county legislature. Latimer, who was born in Mount Vernon, is a resident of Rye, and he's a marketing executive for Benchmark Hospitality.
Local elections in Larchmont and Mamaroneck are less than a month away. Tuesday, March 18th is the election day, and anyone driving in the communities can't miss seeing the candidates' signs. Among the issues are Mamaroneck Avenue, parking, and the type of business that should be encouraged on the avenue. Many feel there are too many fast food establishments on the avenue. Others say too many groups of young people hang out in front of too many stores on the avenue. On future programs, as we get closer to Election Day, we hope to have all the candidates in to present their ideas on the issues. In Mamaroneck, incumbent Mayor Joe Lanza and incumbent trustee Walter Rogers are the Republicans hoping to keep their positions. Opposing Lanza in the mayor's race is Democrat trustee Archie Giannunzio. The other Democrat hoping to get Walter Rogers' trustee seat is Gloriana Palancia. In Larchmont, the only Republican candidate for trustee is incumbent Ken Bialo. The Democrats are running two candidates for Larchmont trustee, Glenna Gray and Marianne Muma.
The pool at Saxon Woods may not open this summer. To find out why, here's Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Kathleen Hurley.
It looks like hundreds of campers will have one less place to go this summer to cool off. The Saxon Woods pool will be closed this summer for renovations. The county is spending $4.2 million from the capital budget to improve the filtration system of the pool deck, bathhouse, and concessions building. There are also plans for a new playground, volleyball court, and eating area. They were hoping to have these renovations completed by this summer, but construction was delayed in getting started, and now the expected completion date is this fall. The pool at Saxon Woods drew 66,000 people last summer. Although the Saxon Woods pool being closed this summer will be a disappointment for its regular swimmers, next summer, summer of 1998, will be an exciting time for all and worth the wait. We wish the camp directors good luck in finding alternative places to have some summer fun. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Kathleen Hurley.
The Bonnie Breyer saga continues to keep the courts busy. Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme has an update.
Bonnie Breyer Country Club's history goes back to 1921, the year the club was founded. From the beginning, two corporations were involved in the project: Bonnie Breyer Country Club, which is in charge of daily operations, and Bonnie Breyer Syndicate, which owns the land. Well into the 60s, a person who wanted to become a member of the country club also had to buy a share of the Bonnie Breyer Syndicate. After this requirement was dropped, some people began to buy shares. A group of developers eventually was able to buy 59% of all the shares. And this group later came up with the plan to build 71 homes along the Gulf links of Bonnie Breyer. Opposition of the project resulted in a rezoning decision by the Mamaroneck Town Board. Bonnie Breyer, Winged-Foot, and parts of Hampshire Country Club, located in the town, were classified as recreational zones, banning any other use of the land. The developers took the town to court. The court sided with the town, and Bonnie Breyer Syndicate has filed an appeal. The developers argue that the town's zoning decision has infringed on their property rights. The town, on the other hand, argues that a zoning limiting the property use for recreational purposes only is not unusual and definitely not in violation of the law.
The Emmeline Theater on Library Lane in Mamaroneck Village has gotten a grant. Details from Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Catherine Kaywood.
The Emmeline Theater recently received a $5,700 grant from the Westchester Community Foundation. The grant will be used to help children from low-income families. The Emmeline's annual budget is $1 million. Box office receipts provide half the budget, and contributions and grants make up the other half. New York State and the Westchester Arts Councils provided $60,000 of this. Last year, the Westchester Arts Council gave $30,000, just like it did the previous year, whereas funding from the State Arts Council dropped by $5,000. David Watson, executive director of the Emmeline, told the Gannett papers that the biggest change in funding during the last 10 years has been the decline in government support. Watson said that donations ranged from large, long-term contributions to hundreds of smaller individual contributions. In today's era of declining government support for the arts organizations, Friends of the Emmeline fundraising groups and other groups such as the Westchester Community Foundation have become increasingly important. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Catherine Kaywood.
Couple of items from the community calendar. A birthday party is in the works, the 72nd birthday of the Mamaroneck Women's Club. It's this February 26th at the Clubhouse on Cortlandt Avenue in Mamaroneck. At the library in Mamaroneck, a collection of snow globes is on display in the library children's room until the end of the month. This collection is from a second grader at the Quaker Ridge School. And if you have a collection or know someone with a collection they would like to display, give the Mamaroneck Public Library's children's room a call.
Do you imagine having all those snow globes?
Well, and there's no snow. How do they put a snow globe together with no snow?
Oh, well. Metro-North Railroad reported the total number of injuries in 1996 last week. Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme takes a closer look.
Metro-North reported last week a decrease in the railroad's rate of injuries of passengers. The rate of injuries per 1 million customers dropped to 6.8 in 1996. That is down from 7.4 in 1995. Most injuries occur when people slip, trip, or fall. 77% of all injuries fall into this category. Many of these injuries happen when people rush to catch a train. The railroad keeps advising passengers to avoid this rush and rather get to the station a bit earlier. All in all, only 111 customers were injured on the New Haven line last year. The total number of injuries system-wide was 419.
You've probably heard a lot about the X generation. Jamie Stein checked with some area residents on what they think of the X generation.
We're going to ask local residents what they feel the Generation X term means. So let's find out what some of our responses were.
Generation X?
Yeah.
Comes before Z, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but...
So we're Generation C, I think. Not that much, it's just a younger generation.
Age range?
I'd say 18 to 25, which is just about what we are. I don't trust anybody over 30. Yeah, including yourself.
What about you?
Don't know.
That's the young generation,
Right.
Today's generation.
Like me, right?
Right, the slackers. What are you doing working? You should be out bumming or something.
No.
I don't know, grunge, I guess. I don't know. Is that what it's about?
What does that mean to you?
The children after the baby boomers.
Generation X, what does that mean to you, sir?
A waste of time.
Oh, no.
That's what it is. Whatever happened to the old traditional ways, Generation X? So that's only about problems. Young people who have nothing better to do, okay, unhappy with themselves and take it out in the world.
So you're in your 20s?
Yeah.
Generation X
after
is that generation which came after the baby boomers.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The MTV generation.
You think they're lazy or?
Lazy?
No.
I don't know. What is
Generation X.
I don't know. The new people coming out now with the baggy pants and that stuff. What are they called?
I guess that's part of Generation X.
Well, it depends. You got the early Generation X, you got the later
Yeah.
Generation X. So.
Generation X, have you ever heard of that term?
No, I have not.
And that's it for this edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News for the last week of February 1997. In case you missed any portion of this news program, you can see it again.
This program is on Channel 14, LMC-TV, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Also, you can call LMC-TV and ask to see this week's news show. The number to call is 698-6808 after 4 p.m.
The crew at LMC-TV will do their best to put Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News on at a time that's convenient for you to watch. Remember, the number to call after 4 o'clock is 698-6808. Ask to see the news show.
Those of us who produce this news program are all volunteers, and we can always use some help.
If you think you might want to join us, drop by when we record the program, just about every Thursday night.
We work on the show at the LMC-TV studio. Our studios are located in Mamaroneck High School on the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs from Walter's hot dog stand.
We get things going around 7 o'clock. Please send your comments and suggestions and news items to Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, care of LMC-TV, 1 Library Lane, Mamaroneck, 10543.
Thanks for watching Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Alyssha Myro.
And I'm Roger Norum. See you next time, and now it's only about 4 weeks until the first day of spring.
God bless that groundhog.
latest on the Larchmont Fire Commissioner controversy.
Mamaroneck Town Republican chief wants an ethics board investigation of the town attorney.
A bomb scare in Mamaroneck Village.
Larchmont says no to meters.
Illegal students program in Rhinebeck.
Requests for more money to pay for last October's nor'easter damage. All this and a look at the local police blotter, too. It's on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News for the first week of March, 1997. I'm Roger Norham.
And I'm Alyssha Myro. Our top story. The Larchmont Board of Trustees asked you to voice your opinion, and you did. The board had been considering installing parking meters in 5 or 6 lots to raise revenues for the village, which has little or no opportunities for development. The board saw the meters as a chance to bring in about $33,000 a year and lessen the property tax, which comprises 77% of the village's revenue. Residents, merchants, and the Chamber of Commerce all came out to cite reasons not to install the meters. Some said that it would be aesthetically unappealing, and others felt it would drive the few village shoppers to malls with free parking. With the public opinion expressed, the board had no choice but to expire this idea. However, remember that train station parkers and meters will stay in place.
The Mamaroneck Town Republican leader won't let the Indelicato matter rest. Mark Manetz is quoted in the Daily Times saying he wants the town ethics panel to investigate Charlene Indelicato's apparent violation of the town ethics code. She had been city manager in New Rochelle for a time, and as city manager, she appointed and reappointed a half-dozen members of the 7-member New Rochelle Zoning Board. The controversy stems from what she did earlier this month as Mamaroneck Town Attorney. She's on a retainer from the town for that position. On February 4th, Indelicato represented a private client before the New Rochelle Zoning Board. This is barred by New Rochelle's Code of Ethics, a former city manager appearing before a board they have appointed. Indelicato pleads ignorance, says she didn't know it was a violation, that she had not read the New Rochelle Ethics Code, but says it was a mistake and she's sorry and won't do it again. That was good enough for Mamaroneck Town Supervisor Elaine Price and most of the town council, including Paul Ryan.
We have an opinion from our council. Of course, Ms. Indelicato can't be our counsel on this. And he is giving his opinion to the Ethics Committee, and we expect that the Ethics Committee will have a ruling and everything will be taken care of.
Does that ruling then come to in front of the town council, and then do you have to vote on it in any way, shape, or form, or is it just their recommendation, and then you accept it or reject it?
Right, they're advisory. So we either accept or reject, and it goes on from there.
Okay.
Well, we're hoping this will put an end to it.
These things happen.
They do.
Yes.
Even attorneys are not perfect, and they make mistakes, and Charlene made a mistake, and like to go on from...
Yeah, it'll be resolved.
And as long as it hasn't damaged her ability to conduct her business for the town...
well, that's important.
That's very important.
Town Supervisor Elaine Price says that Republican Mannix had political motives for continuing his pressure in the case. Mark Mannix denies the charge. He's quoted in the Daily Times saying it's an issue of the conduct of our town attorney. Quote, stay tuned.
That big nor'easter that blasted through our area in mid-October is still in the news. The reason? Money. Details from Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Kathleen Hurley.
Remember the October 19th nor'easter storm? Well, the Sound Shore communities, which were severely damaged, are now seeking $1 million in aid from the federal government. The money would be used to help to pay for such expenses as overtime for public work employees, damage to buildings, and the cost of hiring contractors to cut trees. So just how bad was the damage? Mamaroneck Village says it cost $203,000, Mamaroneck Town $75,000, Rye almost $79,000, Portchester $150,000, and New Rochelle $400,000. The good news is that the process for getting this aid should not take as long as the blizzard aid did, thanks to the municipalities. They consulted with state and federal damage investigators on their applications before submitting them and are hoping for speedy approval. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Kathleen Hurley.
By the way, in Larchmont Village, the cost of the nor'easter was in excess of $20,000 in damage.
The issue of hiring a paid fire commissioner in the village of Larchmont is a hot topic. And Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News spoke with Larchmont Mayor Cheryl Louie to find out more.
The board commissioned an expert consultant firm, Carol Buracker and Associates, in January of 1996 to review the entire way that we deliver fire services in the village of Larchmont. And they presented that report in July of 1996, and we've been discussing it ever since, it seems. And the board recently came to the conclusion that they would adopt one of the recommendations in that report, which was to hire a paid department head.
Now, there currently is a volunteer chief who's in charge at the fire scenes. What role would a fire commissioner take on?
Fire commissioner's role is in the process of being defined. It's a definition that we want to work on with the department. We have asked the fire department to work with us in developing that job description in that role. The volunteer chief would continue to be in charge of fire scenes, and we would work on administrative, breaking down the administrative tasks between them.
I know one of the big questions is the amount of overtime that a lot of the paid firefighters are putting in. So is there a cost differential as far as hiring this paid fire commissioner versus the cost of overtime that the village is incurring for fire services? Is there a big difference between that cost, hiring a new fire commissioner and...
The fire commissioner would not necessarily fill the role of the 14th firefighter, however, potentially might. The 14th firefighter position was left vacant because this is an attempt to look at how we deliver fire services in the village to take us into the 21st century. It's a total fire management program, and we felt that rather than lock us into the way it has always been, it was wise to leave a little latitude, because we had a retirement in the department, to explore different ways of proceeding. And it has taken a little bit longer than we thought to make, to enact all these decisions, because we've wanted to work with the department and make the decisions jointly. And it's very important to the board to keep and maintain our volunteer program as well as our paid professional program, and keep the two merged together. And it's taken a little bit longer. There aren't that many models in Westchester County to follow to deliver fire services the way we do in Larchmont, and so working with them has been harder.
One last question for you. With the opposition from the volunteer and paid crews in Larchmont, and they're requesting that you hold off, I think it's 6 months to a year to decide, is there any end in sight as far as a final decision and when maybe the hiring of a fire commissioner would take place?
There really hasn't been. Since that request was made to the village board, our village board has not met. So I really have, I can't answer that because we haven't had that discussion yet. What I would urge viewers is that the consultant's report and an executive summary are available in Village Hall. And I think that this is a topic that we've been discussing for over a year, but it would never hurt to be too informed. And it's a complicated issue. It's not just a question of a 14th firefighter and a paid department head. There are operational questions, how much equipment you buy, how you fight fires, how you organize the department. It is, as I said, a broad overview of how you deliver fire services. It's not a narrow one or two question issue.
A 14-year-old Larchmont girl was critically injured on Saturday, February 22nd in a car accident on Palmer Avenue near Rockland Avenue in Mamaroneck. Christina Isidori was one of 6 students in the car that crashed into parked cars, and she was thrown from the vehicle. She remains in critical condition at the Sound Shore Medical Center in New Rochelle. The other passengers included 4 boys who were not injured, and a 14-year-old girl, Alina Bizadori of Larchmont, who was treated at the emergency room and released. Police say that the driver, 17-year-old Matthew Bruschke of Mamaroneck, apparently lost control when he swerved to avoid an object on Palmer Avenue. He then hit 2 parked cars. Christina Isidori suffered a blood clot on her brain and also injuries to her liver and diaphragm. Isidori is a freshman student at Mamaroneck High School.
Many families outside our school districts like our school districts, but don't want to pay the high taxes that come with owning property here. Now the Rye School District has a program for these so-called illegal students. More on the story from Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Ginny Neumeister.
The Village of Mamaroneck and Rye School District have embarked on a program to track and reduce the number of students who register illegally in the Rye schools. Parents who register their children must now show a landlord's affidavit signed by the building's owner to show proof of residency. These statements are shared with the village's building department, who matches up the information with their records. Parents from other communities who are then denied registration because they have perhaps used a relative's address are offered the option of paying from $7,000 to $9,000 a year for the privilege of using the district. Kim Incandela, business manager of Rye Schools, said in a Daily Times interview that we have a responsibility to the taxpayers to make sure the students enrolled are supposed to be here. At least 22 non-resident students have been identified so far. Mayor Joseph Lanza is presently discussing a similar program with the Mamaroneck School District. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Ginny Neumeister.
A kidnapper arrested by Larchmont police was sitting in the Westchester County Jail when a Connecticut judge declared a mistrial. For the details, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Kathleen Hurley.
On February 8th, Tony Niemeyer, 27, of Derby, Connecticut, was arrested in Larchmont for kidnapping his former girlfriend. She's also the main witness against him in a trial in Connecticut. The arrest in Larchmont has led to a mistrial in Connecticut where he is being charged with beating Dawn Sowick in February of last year. Niemeyer is accused of kidnapping Sowick and her sister before she was due to take the stand. His lawyer is reporting that they were with him willingly. However, the state prosecutor of the case in Connecticut says that Niemeyer will still have to face the charges of beating when he returns to Connecticut.
Last week there were some anxious moments for a few hours near the Mamaroneck Post Office on Mount Pleasant Avenue. Someone called police to say a suspicious-looking suitcase was left on the sidewalk near the post office. Not taking any chances, the police called the Westchester County Bomb Squad. It arrived and police blocked off the streets near the post office, Palmer and Mamaroneck Avenues, and some smaller streets. The bomb squad x-rayed the suitcase, which did not show any explosives. Then they opened the case with a special tool and found what would normally be in a suitcase, clothing and the like, but nothing suspicious. So about 2.5 hours after the alert was sounded, the streets were reopened and traffic and business returned to normal. A scare, but thankfully no bomb. Alyssha?
Well, a routine traffic stop in Larchmont brought a fugitive into police custody. Officer Michael Walsh stopped a red Chevy van from speeding on Boston Post Road and wound up capturing a convicted murderer from South Carolina who had violated his parole. Missing for 3 years, 32-year-old John Henry Kearse was taken to Westchester County Jail in Valhalla to await extradition. For more on the police beat, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme.
Just a look at Mamaroneck Village. A woman who was trying to park her car at the Sarah R. Newman nursing home at Palmer and Rockland Avenues was injured when she tried to park the car. She reported to the police officers who came to the site of the accident that her car accelerated by itself, struck a signpost, a tree, the building, and then overturned. Saxony Ice Company, located at 302 Center Avenue, reported that a 1.5 by 1 foot pane of glass was broken last week. When police checked on a Nissan Maxima on Carroll Avenue, they found that the car's dashboard was damaged and that the trunk of the car was open. In Mamaroneck Town, broken window panes were found at the kitchen of the Veterans of Foreign War Post on Boston Post Road. The glass on a side entrance door at the Castro Convertible store was also found broken Sunday a week ago. Two holes were found in a front window of Larchmont Photo Center Friday a week ago. According to the police, the holes were caused by a pellet gun.
Mamaroneck Town Councilman Paul Ryan fills us in on the progress of the environmental project on the Sheldrake River. He spoke with Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Ginny Neumeister.
The combination of a buffer and a reinforcement of the banks with natural vegetation that will not only look nice, but will also, serve to stop the erosion that has been taking place.
Now, how long a distance is this going? The stretch?
I'm not quite sure of the distance. It's probably 500 feet, something like that.
Maybe we could get you to do more.
Well, it all depends on the money available.
A 37-year-old man from Manhattan apparently likes his food, but not paying for it. On January 10th, Jeffrey Colt of 2nd Avenue in Manhattan was arrested and put in the town lockup, accused of not paying for a nearly $47 order from Nathan's on the Post Road. He was free on bail this month when he went to the Pizza Connection in Mamaroneck Village. Say police picking up a pizza someone else paid for, and also stiffing a Mamaroneck taxi on a $22 fare. Colt was again arrested Valentine's Day, but was a no-show for his village court date to answer charges of theft of services and resisting arrest. In Mamaroneck Town, he faces similar charges in addition to attempted assault. Town police say Jeffrey Colt fought them while he was being arrested.
Westchester County's wish list for Albany. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Lori Valvano has details.
Westchester County will lobby the state legislature to keep its extra 1 percentage point in the sales tax and to raise the county cap on borrowing money without a referendum from $10 million to $25 million. In 1996, the extra percentage point raised over $75 million. According to Democratic County Legislator Thomas Abenati, everyone has come to rely on this sales tax, and the county needs it. The tax dollars are split among the county government, Westchester's villages, towns, and the cities of Rye and Peekskill. As for the cap on borrowing money without a referendum, Westchester is the state's only county with such a measure. Any proposal between $10 and $25 million is subject to a county-wide vote if residents gather enough signatures for the ballot. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Lori Valvano.
If you are or know someone on food stamps, the regulations to qualify changed over the weekend. They're tougher. To explain, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Catherine Kaywood.
Now that President Clinton's Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act is going into effect, many people across the country may no longer qualify for food stamps. According to the Gannett papers, approximately 75,000 jobless single New Yorkers with no children will be the first to feel the effects of this new bill. Here in Westchester County, we have over 47,000 people receiving food stamps, but only 455 of these people will be affected, according to Dennis Packard of the Westchester Social Services. Other people say that as many as 1,200 people here in the county may be affected. As time goes on, our local soup kitchens and food pantries may become even more important. Locally, we've had the Larchmont Mamaroneck Hunger Task Force for the last 4 years. It is better known as the Food Pantry at the CAP Center at 134 Center Avenue here. They hand out food 4 to 5 days worth of food in a bag, and they do this 2 times a month. Mostly the bags contain non-perishables, but also sometimes contain fresh food. And the food is as nutritious as possible. If you would like to donate food, money, or be a volunteer, you may contact the Reverend Bill Shilledy, Cindy Goldstein, or Carol Cawley. You can reach Reverend Shilledy at 698-6048. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Catherine Kaywood.
What's this? The Long Island Railroad and the Metro North trains meeting at Grand Central? Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme has the story.
If a $2 billion project becomes reality, Long Island Railroad trains will run into Grand Central and Metro North trains will go to Pennsylvania Station. The plan has the backing of 2 New York State senators in Washington. Senator D'Amato and Senator Monahan both backed the plan. During a press conference at Grand Central Terminal, D'Amato said that the project might take up to 10 years to be completed. Most of the funds for construction would come from the federal government. More tunnels would have to be built to make the connections to the terminals. And there's another problem that may create some difficulties. Metro North trains and Long Island Railroad trains cannot use the same tracks because the systems that connect to the electrified third rail are different.
Trucks are warned to stay off the parkways, including the Hutch. Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Lori Valvano has more.
Assemblywoman Audrey Hochberg is drafting legislation to increase the penalty for truck drivers using Westchester parkways. According to Westchester County Police, in the last couple of months, 11 trucks have hit overpasses on the Hutchinson Parkway. In fact, 1996 statistics revealed there were over 20 truck bridge accidents on the Westchester County portion of the Hutchinson River, Sawmill River, Cross County, or Bronx River parkways. Hochberg's proposal will increase penalties for $100 to $500. Second offenders will face $750, and a third offense within 18 months will result in a $1,000 fine. Hochberg hopes to include other parkways in her proposal, especially on Long Island. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, this is Lori Valvano.
And that's it for this edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News for the first week of March 1997. In case you missed any portion of this news show, you can see it again.
This program is on Channel 14 LMC-TV Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Sometimes it shows up again around 11 p.m. Also, you can call LMC-TV and ask to see this week's news show.
The number to call is 698-6808 after 4 p.m. The crew at LMC-TV will do their best to put the Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News program on at a time that's convenient for you to watch. Remember, the number to call after 4 o'clock is 698-6808. Ask to see the news show.
Those of us who produce this news program are all volunteers, and we can always use some help. If you think you might want to join us, drop by when we record.
And that's just about every Thursday night. We work on the show at the LMC-TV studios located in Mamaroneck High School on the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs from Walter's Hot Dog Stand.
We get things going around 7 p.m. Please send your comments, suggestions, and news items to Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, 1 Library Lane, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543. Thanks for watching Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Alyssha Myro.
And I'm Roger Norham. See you next time. And with some of the spring temperatures that we hit this past week, you may have thought that spring was here already. It's not far away, though. Now, officially, only about 3 weeks ago. Have a good week.
Mamaroneck High School principal James Coffey decides to step down. We'll have the story.
New Rochelle Public Access TV is looking for a home.
Confusion looms over Town Ethics Board. We'll have a report.
Mamaroneck school budget threatens to raise taxes.
Looking to do any filming in the town of Mamaroneck? We'll tell you how to get started.
Those stories and more on this edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehme.
And I'm Virginia Newmeister. Our top story: attention taxpayers of the Mamaroneck School District. There are opportunities to find out what you would like to know about the upcoming school budget and what you may be paying for. On Saturday, March 8th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., there will be the school board's first work session on the budget, and it will be held at Mamaroneck High School's Post Road Conference Center. Another work session will be held on Tuesday, March 18th at 7:30 p.m., and on April 8th is the public hearing on the budget before it's presented to the voters. Mark those dates down. It's a once-a-year opportunity for public input on the school budget. Sven?
March 18th is Election Day in the village of Mamaroneck and in Larchmont Village. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News has produced a special election show which you can watch on Channel 15. As always, you can also request to see this special election show. Just call LMC-TV at 698-6808 after 4 p.m. The candidates for political office are introduced in this special show. Here's the list of the candidates. In Mamaroneck, Village Mayor Joseph Lancer, a Republican, runs against Village Trustee Archie Gionancio, a Democrat. Deputy Mayor Walter Rogers, a Republican, is opposed by Gloriana Palancia, a Democrat.
In Larchmont, the candidates for the two positions on the village board are for the Democrats incumbent Marianne Muma and Glenna Gray. The Republican candidate for the village board is incumbent Ken Bialo. There are two candidates for village justice, the incumbent Harvey Brown, who is on the Democratic ticket, and he is opposed by Thea S. Beaver, who is the Republican candidate. Election Day is Tuesday, March 18th.
No elections are held in the town this March. The next elections in the town are scheduled for November. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Joe Jablanowski spoke with Mamaroneck Town Supervisor Elaine Price about the funding for upcoming sewer repairs in the town.
We had reassurances that some of our sewer repairs that are mandated by the Department of Environmental Conservation would be included in Bond Act funding, and actually we lobbied for the Bond Act on that premise. Bond Act was overwhelmingly accepted by Westchester County voters, up to 78%. Now it appears that there's draft criteria that are being put out by the DEC, which narrows the definition of eligibility of projects, and it appears that our sewer repairs would not be in this narrow definition. So
what are you doing about it?
Well, we're doing a lot. We have asked for the comment period to be extended because most municipalities don't even know that there's a comment period and that the draft regulations are out there. And we have also written letters stating why, making a very strong case that the sewer repairs are part of the Long Island Sound study, and they're under a consent order, which means they should receive the highest priority. It's a federal and state mandate. And that the pollutants that go into Long Island Sound, because of the decaying infrastructure, if they're to be repaired, it would clean up the Long Island Sound.
What's the scope of the money that we're talking about here?
Well, that's an important issue because there's $200 million allocated for Long Island Sound projects. And nitrogen removal is a priority. It's something that I have been fighting for years. And they have said, well, that's the only priority. That's the only issue. And we're saying no. 10 million, 13 million out of the 200 million needs to go for these lateral repairs, lateral trunk line repairs, because Yonkers and New Rochelle will be very hard hit. 16 million in Yonkers, 9 million in New Rochelle, 3 million in the village of Larchmont, and on and on and on. So this is really important. And if you have all of this stuff spewing into Long Island Sound, nitrogen removal, whatever money you throw at it, it really won't do the job because the stuff is bypassing the system. So we are making the case aggressively and consistently. We're not going away. We're getting a lot of community support for it.
And the effort includes lobbying, writing letters, and making phone calls, that kind of thing.
Oh, all of that. And stay tuned. We'll keep reporting on it.
The New Rochelle Public Access Station is looking for a site for a studio. With the story, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Catherine Kaywood.
We often take for granted the things that contribute to the quality of life in our community, don't we? Take LMC-TV, for example. We have 3 local cable channels, 2 TV studios, and our high school students have the opportunity to take television-related courses. Then there's our neighbor, New Rochelle, which has no TV studio of their own. They have been so focused on the development of their downtown area that the idea of their own TV studio didn't receive much publicity until recently. They had been using TCI's White Plains studio until it closed in November. So for the moment, New Rochelle residents are permitted to tape their shows at LMC's studios. So where will the forthcoming New Rochelle TV studio be located? Alan Hammond, who is the chair of the New Rochelle Cable Television Advisory Committee, favors having it at the high school, which would give students more of an educational opportunity and would make the high school more of a center for community activities. Another option is to house it at the Sound Shore Medical Center, and the hospital has agreed to this and has not asked for any rent. According to the Gannett papers, New Rochelle Mayor Timidoni favors a TV studio at the hospital because it could be open 24 hours a day. Hopefully the community will have a say in the matter rather than the city merely deciding on the location. Funds are not a problem because these were set aside from the franchising agreement. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, this is Catherine Kaywood.
There seems to be some confusion as to who really has jurisdiction or the right to rule on whether or not Charlene Indelicato, representing a client, should or should not have appeared before the Zoning Board of New Rochelle, which was her former employer. Mamaroneck's Code of Ethics refers to former employees of the town, and New Rochelle's code doesn't seem to apply against someone who no longer works for the city. Are you still confused? While the mistake, as Elaine Price, town supervisor, labels it, may be a bit sticky, the Ethics Board of Mamaroneck will continue to meet to decide if it actually has jurisdiction over this matter before any action can be taken. We'll update you as the case progresses.
You might remember voting on the issue of authorizing the Mamaroneck School District to borrow money for school repairs. Back in November, a $19.4 million maintenance bond was approved by the voters. The plans for the renovation projects are currently being reviewed by the state. Approval is expected within 2 months. Once the approval has been received, the school district will ask for bids. Construction may start in July. As part of the renovations, handicapped access will be improved at all schools in the district. Here's a look at what will be spent at individual schools. Just over $7 million will go to Mamaroneck High School, one of the major projects there, improving the fire detection system. Mamaroneck Avenue School's renovations will cost just over $3 million and will include replacing the electrical and heating systems. Almost $3 million will be used to replace the roof at Central School. Asbestos tiles will also be removed. Chatsworth Avenue School will get an upgrade of the heating and ventilation systems. Some weak window frames will be replaced. And Chatsworth will receive $2.6 million. Just over $1.5 million will be used for renovations at Murray Avenue School. An elevator will also be installed there. Renovations at the Hallmark School Complex will cost about $1.5 million, and most of the money will be spent on renovating science rooms.
The principal of Mamaroneck High School for the past 6 years announced last week that he would leave his post at the end of this school year. James V. Coffey, 57, said in a memo distributed through the school system that the decision was reached over the course of the last 15 months. It's time, he said.
I am not being pushed out. I've had, thankfully, enough success here, I think, and that's in the eye of the beholder, I know, to frankly be encouraged by important people, to people that I have to work with on a daily basis, to reconsider. So quite the contrary. It's not, I'm not being pushed out at all.
What more work do you think has to be done that will be the responsibility of your successor?
The goal is, simply put, in plain English, that this school can no longer be the tale of two schools. It no longer can be the school for kids like yourself who come here, get everything there is to get out of it, give back 100%, do well, get good grades, and go on to the college of your choice. And then the others. However you want to define the others, whatever percentages you want to attribute to that, it can no longer be that. And what is crystal clear is that we've got to find, we've got to have the will, and we've got to find the means.
What's your plans after you leave the school?
So I'm not sure. I'm going to free fall for a while, and hopefully when I pull the cord, the chute opens.
Coffey's decision was unexpected, which means a search committee to find a replacement has not yet been formed. The high school comprises grades 9 through 12 and handles 1,100 students from Larchmont and Mamaroneck. Its administration is divided into its two physical buildings, the Post Road segment with its unit principal Ann Garcia Maruz, and the Palmer Avenue half under Principal Ron Benizio. Coffey reportedly told colleagues that he plans to leave New York State, but he has no specific employment plans for the future. Prior to joining the Mamaroneck School District, Principal Coffey had been an assistant principal in Chappaqua and a guidance counselor in North Salem.
At the end of February of last year, a number of houses in the Orienta section of Mamaroneck were spray painted with anti-Semitic graffiti. A couple of days later, more graffiti attacks took place. These incidents brought the community together. You may remember a march along Boston Post Road of up to 2,000 residents to the high school, where a meeting took place in the auditorium on the Post Road side of the school. Village, town, county and police officials all declared that whoever committed the crimes would be caught. But in spite of the efforts that went into the investigation, law enforcement officials have not been able to find who's responsible for the anti-Semitic graffiti in Orienta. Flyers have now been posted throughout the area to help in the investigation. The signs show that a $300,000 reward will be awarded to anyone who can give information to the police that will lead to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for the anti-Semitic hate messages on homes in the town of Mamaroneck and the village of Mamaroneck.
Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Catherine Kaywood has the story on how your shopping can benefit My Sister's Place.
Have you heard of My Sister's Place? It's a shelter for battered women and their children. The original shelter is in Yonkers, and the second one will be opening here in Mamaroneck. The annual fundraiser started on March 7th and runs through March 15th. This annual fundraiser is called the Spring Shopping Spree, and about 200 shops and restaurants in Westchester County and Connecticut are participating. For this shopping spree, one needs a $50 place card, which gives a 20% discount at participating merchants. The place cards can be purchased at My Sister's Place at 683-1333 or at some of the participating stores. We can tell which stores are participating by the posters in their windows. The first year's fundraiser brought in about $20,000, and last year's brought in almost double that. So if you would like to go shopping and help battered women and their children at the same time, you have through March 15th. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, this is Catherine Kaywood.
Have you seen the new TV commercials for ADT security systems? It was shot in the town of Mamaroneck last summer. New permitting procedures will affect future shots. Town Supervisor Elaine Price stopped by and spoke with Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Joe Jablanowski about filming permits.
We have a fair amount of filming, from the golf courses to homes on Edgewood Avenue to schools, and we really didn't have a process that was public and controlled. So while we don't want to solicit these filming companies, we don't want to prohibit them, and when they do come, we want to make sure that all of our residents are protected and that we have the personnel to deal with it. So it lists a number of criteria, a number of controls. There's a permit. It has to go before our administrator and the town board for policy determinations, and we think it will work well. We don't think it's burdensome, but it does allow us to keep control and have enforcement, which is what it's all about, so as not to disrupt the residents.
Elaine Price, thanks very much for the update on the town of Mamaroneck doings.
Last week, the Westchester Board of Legislators unanimously approved to set aside the Marshland Conservancy in Rye, just across the border from Mamaroneck on Boston Post Road, as a natural park and wildlife sanctuary to be preserved for the use and development of habitat management and wildlife protection. The legislation calls for the Marshlands Conservancy to be preserved and maintained in a manner consistent with the property's environmental value. Under the legislation, the property on Long Island Sound will be preserved and held in trust in perpetuity for the people of Westchester. Very pleased with the unanimous vote of the Board of Legislators was legislator George Latimer, a Democrat who was one of the driving forces behind the board's decision. And here's a bit of history. The Marshland Conservancy came into existence in 1966 when the Devereux family gave the property to the county with the provision that it be held for conservation purposes. From its inception, the Marshlands was held and managed by the county as a nature preserve and has been operated to take full advantage of its existing environmental resources. In 1977, Fanny Parsons made a gift of an additional parcel to the county to be combined with and made part of the Marshlands Conservancy. If you have never been there or haven't been there in a long time, we'd just like to encourage you to go to the Marshlands Conservancy on Boston Post Road. It's just after the Mamaroneck and Rye border on the right-hand side of the road. And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. You can watch the news show Monday through Friday at about 7 in the evening.
Or you can request it on LMC's Request TV. Just call the Palmer Avenue studio at 698-6808 and request that the news show be put on the air on one of the LMC-TV's channels, 14, 15, or 16. It may be just a couple of minutes until the show comes on, especially for you.
All of us who work on this program are volunteers. No one on this show is employed by LMC-TV. There's a lot of work involved in doing the news show. We always have a number of positions that can be filled every Thursday night when we do the news show. It's a fun way to get involved in community affairs, and in addition, you can learn a lot about television news.
Every Thursday night, we meet about 7 p.m. and work on this news program, taping the various segments that make up the final show that you watch later.
You'll find us in LMC's Palmer Avenue studio, which is in the Mamaroneck High School building, right up the stairs from Walter's Hot Dog Stand on Palmer Avenue. Also, if you have a story or some video which you think we might like to use on this program, come by on a Thursday night and we'll most likely use your story.
Or if you have any comments, suggestions, or some criticisms, but can't come on a Thursday night, you can also send us a letter. The address, Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, care of LMC-TV, 1 Library Lane, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543. Thanks for sharing your time with us, watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Jenny Neumeister.
And I'm Sven Oehme. And finishing the countdown to spring, it's just about another week till spring is here.
Officially.
Officially.
Now,
yeah. We'll still get some snow.
Yeah.
But officially, next week.